Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Namaste. I would like to use this opportunity to express my personal gratitude and that of the 171 member states of UNIDO, as well as its staff, for this award. The Pryiadarshni Academy had the interest in giving to our organization. I cannot take this award another way than on behalf of all of them that enabled me to perform my duties during the last 7 years. It is indeed heartening that an institution working in social, cultural, and educational aspects look at what we are doing in the United Nations system in the field of economic development. And that was indeed the work I was trying to do with my colleagues during the last years to clarify the role and the way economic development could foster the objectives of the international community in terms of reducing poverty and improving the living conditions of the poor segments of the population. It is indeed economic development a powerful driving force. In the last 2 decades, the number of poor people living around the world decreased from 1.4 billion to almost 1 billion people. And that reduction was due to the tremendous economic growth experienced particularly in this part of the world. In China, growing at 10% for a long period of time, almost 2 decades. In India, more recently, after the 90s, we have scored great progress in reducing the number of people living in absolute poverty. However, more needs to be done. And to do more, the United Nations, international community, have to keep performing to adapt to the new times. I am convinced that development is a result of a multifaceted and very complex process. It's a result of interaction in several fronts. And although we have improved the living conditions of several million people during the last decades thanks to economic development, we shouldn't forget the great challenges lying ahead. Having given you the good news, let me tell you, we have more than 40 countries struggling with security and political conditions that moves hundreds of million people, throw hundreds of million people into poverty, disarray, dislocation. We still have severe environmental and energy threats ahead to confront, and we certainly have a large number of humanitarian needs to be filled. The United Nations can do its role, provided the proper leadership is given by the international community at large, governments, private sector leaders, and this is the very reason why I find so rewarding to be part of this ceremony awarded by this prestigious institution working so hard to move these objectives and ideas all throughout the world. It is indeed my hope that in the coming years we will find the way to work closer together, to remove the constraints and difficulties lying ahead in our societies. India has many challenges and has overcome many others. I think in many ways has become an example on how economic development can improve living conditions, and in many others it confronts the same challenges the rest of mankind we have to overcome to live in peace and harmony. I have to say, in these particular times, it has been very challenging to work at the United Nations. We have quite a troublesome time with new threats like global terrorism and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction emerging as new threats on the global community. I am pretty convinced that the only way to defeat those challenges, those threats in the future is by working together, trying to win the hearts and minds of 1 million people that are suffering in the margins of a global society we are so eagerly trying to build. I believe that those challenges goes around basically the creation of employment and to dignify living conditions. In the 2 decades concluding in 2010, the world's labor force would have grown 40%. 95% of that growth occurs in developing countries that will receive only 15% of a foreign direct investment. That's why I would like to use this tribune to call upon business people, academics, cultural institutions to work together to address the proper set of policies for the rural poor, for the informal sector, to address the constraints on the environment. I am pretty sure that in events like this, in gatherings like this, and with institutions like Pryiadarshni Academy, you can find concrete suggestions. We will be very interested in listen and in developing to work together. It has been very rewarding for us to know about your interest in our work. It has been very rewarding particularly for our reforms and our campaign to reform the United Nations system. And we remain at the disposal of this prestigious institution to develop joint ways of action. I have to say, Mr. Rupani, I am really impressed. You managed to gather such a crowd. At the same time, you are having the cricket semi-finals between India and Pakistan. Congratulations to you. And thank you very much indeed for this award. Shukriya.